Right, 29th of October 2024. It is a big date, especially for one Rigathi Gachagua as he returns to court today. That the conservatory orders have been given up until today. So leo the court starts listening to that case. Lakini karibu sana. We'll be getting more details on that in the diary. This is the Morning Cafe. My name is Freddie Ndimuli.
And I'm used to Stanley Nyaringita. Speaking of the presidency in the United States, it's exactly 1 week to the U.S. presidential elections. The vice president, who is hoping to be the president, Kamala Harris, as well as the former president of the U.S., Donald Trump. Yes. It's going to be one very, very long week, particularly for the U.S. Kenyans, are you even bothered about the U.S. elections? Coming back home, yes. The big kind of politics.
Yes, even before the politics, remember there's something else happening that matters education. Today is the 2 of the KPSEA exams. At least 1.3 million candidates countrywide sitting for their grade 6 exams, hoping to transition to the junior secondary next year. Also, KCSE exams continue countrywide, 965,000 candidates sitting for that exam. So from that perspective, it is still a big educational moment, but in the courts, a lot is happening as well. But as you mentioned, yes, the politics still dominate our discussion. State of the Nation, Daniel Manduku, MP Nyaribari Masaba, and Joe Mutambo, former MP Mwingi Central, will be a panelist on the State of the Nation later this morning.
Oh yes, into matters law, because itakuwa maneno ya sheria this whole week. We get into inheritance rights of Kamwe state partners. Yes, I know, hapo nje usiangalie mwenzako hapo this morning and you're like, ama ni sisi wanaongelelea. It just might be you. But this is one conversation that you need to tune in because it really touches so many Kenyans. Can we stay?
All right.
And it reached a point even members of parliament had to say, okay, now let us have a law for this one. We'll be getting into this later on with Job Musembi. He's an advocate.
All right. 57 days to go to Christmas Day. By the way, we continue with our Christmas countdown. And I think we'll start it officially now once October is done. But a quick look at the dailies today. New rules on poll petitions. So MPs have agreed on constitutional changes to extend period for Supreme Court dispute hearing and review of boundaries. That's a big headline on the front page of the People Daily today.
On the Standard, how Devani walked free from 7.6 billion cash shillings Triton scam.
There's that story there. Tension as Supreme Court rules on Finance Bill 2023 and the housing tax. That's also a big deal today. That's a Standard. On the Daily Nation, how police use phones to track and capture suspects. A big headline. And you've realized, by the way, the sentences are very long today. We have, and they all start with how. How police use, how Devani walked free. Nafikiri creativity kidogo imepotea. That's the Daily Nation.
Chenga za Gachagua. Ni kitambo uone picha yake Rigathi Gachagua akiwa ametabasamu vivyo hivyo
hapo akiwa kotini. Gazeti la Taifa Leo. On the Business Daily, I'm telling you, it's getting interesting by the day. KRA starts integrating tax system with banks and telcos. Hakuna kutoroka. Hii sasa wanapanga vile pesa yako inaingia kutoka wapi? Kwa simu na vile inaingia kwa bank. Alafu wanakuambia sasa mpatie Kaisari kilicho chake.
Hapa paper trail ni very the last
let's go back to cash transactions. Yes, that's a Business Daily.
There's also the Star, director unaweza tusaidia na hiyo.
All right.
Kwa tumeficha mahali nyuma. Yes, so you have it. Kindiki's big test. Say to mobilize restive Gema behind Ruto.
Another very long sentence. Yes.
They had a similar conversation on this one yesterday.
Yes, I remember today is a free copy of the Star that comes with MyGov pullout. But another very long sentence there. Kindiki's big test. I think wangeachia tu hapo to mobilize restive Gema behind Ruto. Well, that's the Star. Let's cross over and take a look at the regional papers. We start off with Uganda. They're still discussing matters coffee.
Yes.
So the coffee millionaires, they call it the boom, as the elephants fight over the proposed absorption of Ugandan Coffee Development Authority into the mother ministry. The grass is blooming with many farmers savoring the aroma of coffee. Starting today, we serialize stories showcasing the remarkable journeys of Uganda's coffee farmers who are earning millions of shillings through their ventures in recent years. Now, you see, that's the difference between Kenya and Uganda. As we talk about people escaping with the scam, how police are using phones to track you and capture suspects, then they're talking about things positive.
Yes.
How farmers are becoming millionaires through the coffee industry. When will we ever see that in Kenya? That, hey, by the way, I'm telling you, the tea industry in Kenya, that's where everything is.
Big, yes.
Hey, guys are making money. Anyway.
And they're going to be having this for a couple of days.
Because they're saying this is, they're serializing stories, showcasing this. So this will continue, not just, yesterday it was about the bill, not very positive, a bit of controversy here.
Yeah, some tribalism here and there over there.
And then now today they're talking about something positive, about the same.
Similar conversations, iko pale juu. This is the front page of the New Vision in Uganda. They say coffee agency hijacked government tax roll, says Museveni. Now that on pages 4 and 5 talk about matters mergers. But interestingly, now they have a splash of lucrative investment opportunities in Uganda from 15 to 30, dedicating 15 pages talking about companies that are driving Uganda's economy. And you'll realize for both New Vision as well as Daily Monitor, they also go with that, the same spirit of this is what is driving our economy and we are proud of it.
Yes.
And this is what we're going to be talking about.
And then you realize on the front page, these images here of people and companies driving the Ugandan economy. At least 2 Kenyans are featured on this faces. One is Sylvia Mulinge, Chief Executive Officer, MTN Uganda. This is a Kenyan. And she had actually been poised to take over Safaricom at some point. She never did, but she was working for Safaricom. The other one is Andrew Kilonzo, MD Uganda Breweries Limited. So yes, Kenyans featuring. And they are running companies which are actually driving Uganda's economy. Kenyan wale. Congratulations to them. But it's another positive front page for the New Vision.
Yes. From Uganda tuende pale Bongo, tuanze na gazeti la Mwananchi. Taarifa kuu pale wasema hatua kwa hatua. Vurugu Club 1245.
Yes. Niliona hii video mahali. Kuna jamaa walikuwa wanatoka kwenye club. Jamaa bado ameshika tumbler na anazungumzia mrembo fulani. Jamaa mwingine akatoka huko kuja wakaanza vurugu. By the end of it, jamaa mmoja alikuwa shapigwa risasi. That video is there online. Sasa mashuhuda wasimulia ilivyokuwa Derek akijeruhi kwa bastola madai ya kugombea mwanamke. Kamanda Muliro aeleza hatua zaidi, jamii ya kemea. Gentlemen, it is 2024.
Yes, I mean,
why would you shoot someone?
Just because, and they have a screen grab of
yes, what happened?
CCTV.
And this is actually very graphic
footage,
because they even show the guy pointing his pistol, and he actually shot him and proceeded to kick him after shooting him. Yes. Why? Because kugongewa ni constant, walisema hivyo.
Ni gazeti la Mwananchi, taarifa sawia na hiyo kwenye gazeti la The Citizen pale juu. They say man arrested after violent altercation of a woman at nightclub.
Very sad indeed. They have kept abreast with what's happening in Kenya.
Yes.
The Citizen, they are not relenting. Pale wanazungumzia impeached Kenyan deputy president now turns to court of appeal. Yes. So yes, even as the proceedings before the High Court continue, the Deputy President has already filed an appeal before the court on that issue of recusal of the 3-judge bench. Yes. Anasema hii story, hata hiyo empaneling
of the
by the DCJ. Anasema hiyo decision yenye mlisema DCJ was correct, hapana, amepeleka kotini, Court of Appeal. So that will also be changing. At least Tanzania have kept abreast with this. I don't know kama Mwananchi wamezungumzia mahali. No space, maybe kule ndani.
Yes.
But the big story there.
Say revenue collection reforms to top key meetings agenda. The TIC and the TRA will meet with foreign investors this week, 4 months after summer. Ambassadors wrote a strongly worded letter of protest to the Foreign Affairs and East African Cooperation Ministry. But something else that is big in Tanzania today, how fake judges are denying younger Simba SC billions. Now, if you follow football, Yanga and Simba SC are, Tanzanians are really, really big fans of this two football clubs. And generally, they're football clubs.
They're the biggest clubs, not just in Tanzania,
Yes.
in this region.
Yes.
There's no club bigger than Yanga or Simba FC. Not even Gor Mahia comes close. Yanga and Simba rule.
Hey.
Then wengine wanakuja. So the industry has grown and the fan base has grown so big that they have even a market for counterfeit jerseys.
Yes.
That's what they're telling you.
Where?
Wanauza original,
Lapo
lakini
kuna
fans ni wengi mpaka you can actually make counterfeit and still make profit. That's big. And I think that's one way of knowing that you've actually made it. When we mpaka tuko na fake jerseys. So it's a special report on this paper. That's a Citizen.
We'll be back to take a look at the local dailies in a few. Let's take a look at the weather. Being a Tuesday, the Kenya Met Department always has an overview of how the weather will be looking like. But let's start with an overview of this and then we get to the Kenya Met Department. In Marsabit, today it's going to be cloudy in the morning, 19, but do expect some sun as high as 27 degrees into 28 actually, getting into the midday. Tuende kwingine tuangalie in Nairobi, the city in the sun, it's 16 degrees right now, and it promises to get as high as 28. Today it's going to be very, very hot if you're in Nairobi. Precipitation today, I think probably, 0.0 millimeters. No chances of raining in Nairobi
And have you
today.
noticed that the nights are very warm?
Yes, by the way.
People are struggling to sleep. Unaamka katikati ya usiku kukunywa maji ndo uendelea. Kuna half time ya kulala.
Unapunguza the number of duvets you have. If you're in Tana River, the coast region, it's going to be a cloudy morning, but then after midday, it's going to get as high as 34 degrees.
36 degrees Celsius.
Oh, yes, 36. Hey.
It's actually 24 degrees Celsius as we
Right
speak.
now, yes.
To 36, this is actually harsh weather.
Wow.
This is not even holiday weather.
Alafu in the western region of Kenya, in Butere.
Why
and its
did you pick on
environs,
Butere?
it just clicked my mind as like, let me take a look at Butere.
That's the most Luya word you know. Butere.
Butere. Right now it's 18 there, no chances of raining today. Tuangalie precipitation, yes. In Butere, there's no rain
Not
today.
Butere. Butere.
Butere. Sawa. Highest temperatures you're going to be seeing today is 28, some clear skies. And so you're asking about the warm temperatures overnight. Tuangalie how Kenya Met Department is telling us all about that. Endelea kuload.
It's also experiencing hot weather. So
Yes. But ndio imekuja. Ikituambia from today the 29th of October until next.
And maybe perhaps people are also wondering, are we done with the short trains? Because they came and disappeared. Now we're seeing very warm weather, sun intervals throughout.
So there you have it. Weather outlook from today all the way to 4th. Expect some rainfall over the Central Highlands, Western Kenya, Lake Victoria Basin, Rift Valley Coast and Northeastern Kenya. The rest of the country will be mostly sunny and dry. Now here it is. They say cool nights ahead. Night temperatures may drop below 10 degrees in parts of the Central Highlands and Central Valley. So prepare for cooler nights. But yes, so we can take a look at temperatures as high as 8 to normally utakuwa, and this is minimum at night, between 10 to 15 and 15 to 20. So you can see these colors here. This is parts of Kiambu, Nairobi, as well the central region.
Like the lower part of Nairobi, the southern part will be as high as 20 degrees.
Yes.
At night temperatures, that's a bit high.
Yes. And he zoom in 10. Yes. Between 15 to 20 and 20 to 25 parts of Nairobi and Machakos pale. If you're in the coast region, ni usiku lakini utakuwa unapata as high as 20 to 25.
Wow.
Na ni usiku peke yake.
Above 25 degrees at night. Well, that's a weather situation. I know we'll be back to take a look at the traffic as well later.
Yes.
But let's get the day's diary.
Tuangalie the diary right now. And so first off, at KICC today, we're going to be having Labour Cabinet Secretary Alfred Mutua, who's going to be opening the East Africa Employability Summit that is going to be taking place today and tomorrow. This particular summit brings together delegates from the Africa Union Commission as well as the East Africa countries. Also today, we do expect lecturers from public universities to resume the strike as of today midnight. They had rumored it, so we're going to be keeping our eyes and ears open to actually see if this is going to materialize. Something else that you had also alluded to earlier, the KPSEA as well as the KILEA exams. Now for KILEA is for the special needs exams, is going to be continuing countrywide today. It started yesterday. By the way, the CIA director is in Kenya. President William Ruto hosted him yesterday. I think this is his second visit this year, so we do expect...
Those visits are very frequent from a CIA director. We should be worried, should we?
Well, we wait to see the kind of activities that are going to be there. And then in Mombasa, today, the 31st Institute of Engineers Kenya International Convention will be happening. Now, after what we've been seeing from buildings collapsing and such kind, we do expect some of these sentiments being said from this particular international convention. That is just a nutshell of what to expect in our news diary from the subsequent bulletins as well as our digital platforms. Another?
Do we have Today in History? No, we don't.
All right.
Tuendelee na magazeti. Let's come back and take a look at the local dailies. All right, today let's start with the People Daily. New rules on poll petitions. So they say MPs have agreed on constitutional changes to extend period for Supreme Court dispute hearing and review of boundaries. Now you see, some of these things could require constitutional changes or amendments to the Constitution at least. So MPs may have agreed, but this debate may require more discussion. And we have a picture there of the Supreme Court. Incidentally, they will also be sitting today to preside over other matters. But yes, you can actually get a feeling that we are getting closer and closer to discussions around amending one or two things around the Constitution. Whether or not this will happen, whether we'll need to go for a referendum, we have to wait and see. Other quick highlights on the front page of this paper, why DPP dropped Triton case. It is a big story on the front page of the Standard. And they say how Devani walked free from 7.6 billion shilling Triton scam. And they have a picture there of Kiraito Murungi, who was a one-time minister. He was Minister for Energy during this time. He was expected to be among those to testify in this court case. He declined to do so. And that is part of the reasons why Devani is walking free after the DPP dropped the case. Other quick highlights on the front page. Governors fight for a bite of fertilizer cash. It's there on the top strip. And maswala ya Manchester United, team ndogo.
Oh, yeah.
Sema no more hugs for Ten Hag at Old Trafford. Iko pale kwenye front page ya People Daily. I don't know why they found space for that. That's the People Daily today. You can move on to the Standard. And of course, that main story we mentioned there.
How Devani walked free from 7.6 billion cash shillings Triton scam, which is also on People Daily. Key witnesses, including former Minister Kiraito Murungi, refused to testify again in the case that lost the country billions. Yagnesh Devani, who is the architect of the oil deal, had been on the run for 16 years until he was extradited from the UK to face the crimes the DPP said could not be proven. There's a quote there by Kiraito Murungi, who's a former energy minister. On the bottom scroll, grade 6 learners look to a brighter future. A total of 1.3 million candidates in 35,573 centers began the exams with the hope of expanding their horizons. Talk about the KPSEA exams. Other conversations on the left, more is on page 12. They say tension as Supreme Court rules on Finance Bill 2023 on the housing tax as well. So on page 12,
I have it open here. Yes.
Yes.
Oh, you got it.
So the government went to the apex court to contest appeals court ruling which declared the act unconstitutional. And the petitioners have urged the Supreme Court to uphold the Court of Appeal's decision. So it's going to be interesting to see the kind of outcome that the Supreme Court gives on this two things, the Finance Act of 2023 as well as the housing levy. Kwingineko, they say new survey shows women spending less despite increased sales. It is on Matters Business. Pale juu asking Pentagon 2 inside Ruto political plan. Was on page 6. Still on Matters Businesses. New 70 megawatt power plants underway. Matters World, 7 states that could sway the US poll. Remember, it's about a week to the US polls. And the Standard also found space for the Manchester United new kind of news. They have
the whole back page is about Manchester United.
Manchester United manager Ten Hag forced to walk away. They have a photo of him actually walking away. Finally,
Bottom there, they talk about who might replace him as Man United manager. So yes, Ruud van Nistelrooy, one of those interesting names, including Zinedine Zidane. So yes,
Graham Potter. I mean,
whether or not this will actually make a difference for Manchester United's fortunes, we remain to see.
For Chelsea, it has. So Manchester United, maybe it will really do the same.
All right. Another sentence, very long sentence that starts with the word how. How police use phones to track and capture suspects. That's the Daily Nation today. This is an exclusive story, and they say that a months-long investigation exposes how Kenyan police access customers' sensitive call data and identify crime suspects in breach of customers' rights to privacy, and how telecom companies frustrate justice in cases where security agencies are implicated in murder and enforced disappearances. It is one of those arguments that have been on and off, how telecommunication companies are being used or misused or abused by security agencies in total breach of privacy, especially when it comes to abduction of young Kenyans. So police actually require a court order to extract data records from mobile phone company systems, but do they actually follow that? That's a question. It is a special report on the front page of the Daily Nation. The other interesting story given prominence on the front page, Moi Kin battle over 300 billion shilling empire. So a son of former rally driver, Jonathan Moi, has opened a new war front in the fight for the estate of his late grandfather and Kenya's second president. It's called Mr. Frederick Kibichi, now wants to be made administrator to the estate. The story is on pages 4 and 5. And they've listed just the kind of property you're talking about, over 2,300 acres. Yeah. Nangangana na 50 by 100. I'm talking about 2,300 acres of land.
I love Bado make other properties.
Akona other properties. Yes. Ni land too. Where you can read more on the Daily Nation. Other quick highlights on the front page. Up there, state scales down police presence as Kipsea starts. Gachagua bid to stall cases. Impeached deputy president now wants proceedings at the High Court on his removal stopped, pending the determination of an appeal that he has filed. So we wait to see whether or not the proceedings, which were supposed to resume today, 29th of October, will continue after he filed an appeal on the same. Stop propaganda, President chides government critics. Asema hii mambo mingi mnasema nini haifanyi nini, hiyo ni propaganda. But to juxtapose it, there's a story about health. Baby Ariana left in the lurch in India amid shift fiasco. But the president says, hii ni propaganda. Unapiga kelele sana. Back page. Crisis looms universities as dawns set to resume strike.
Yes.
Lecturers' unions as differed with the government over implementation of salary raise. Hey.
And this will just be happening probably today midnight. So
yes. So another story, bill proposes punitive fines for holding elections in illegal polling stations. There should be fine either way. If it's, why would you hold an election at an illegal polling station? It's already illegal.
And they say the number of ungazetted polling stations that allegedly transmitted results, the 2017 general election were 11,000. Now you can imagine the number of even
illegal
voters.
Polling stations.
Yes. Ungazetted is what the name they use there. Ni chenga hiyo. Kwingineko chenga za Gachagua kwenye gazeti la Taifa Leo, baada ya kunusa hatari ya kulemewa katika mahakama kuu, aelekea mahakama ya rufaa kunusuru kiti chake. wanaita karata hii. Naibu wa rais aliyeng'atuliwa onekana kubuni mipango kabambe ya kuhakikisha uamuzi wa mahakama kuhusu kutimuliwa kwake umechelewa zaidi. Vidokezo vingine pale chini, barabara ya Ruto 2027 yateleza. You remember last year time like now, conversations were rife on how even for both of them, the politics for 2027 was, the roadmap was very clear. Right now,
it's changed drastically.
Is
it that bad for the president?
Kwingineko, masuala ya kimataifa, Trump bado afokea Harris kura zikibisha. Ni wiki tu moja imesalia. Kwingineko, masuala ya masomo, mabadiliko kwa mtihani wa KPSEA. Kwa pale chini, kule juu, wahadhiri kwanza mgomo leo, sema kuwa chama chao waamuru wasusie kazi hadi waongezewe mishahara. And this is coming at a very critical time. Most most universities are set to have their end of year exams as of now, this coming month, right. November. So he's striking as a theory wengi sana.
All right. Gazeti la Taifa leo tuangazie masuala ya biashara. On the Business Daily today, they say KRA starts integrating tax system with banks and telcos. Letters sent to chief executives demanding system link business payment transactions on authorities' data. So the KRA has started integrating its system with banks, money remittance firms, and payment service providers like M-Pesa in fresh efforts to weed out tax evaders and boost revenue by billions of shillings. Now, this is going to be a game changer. Wewe ile till number, pay bill number, umekuwa unafanyia kwa biashara, lakini ulipi tax. Sasa kuna kuhepa.
It is going to be monitored.
Hata pesa kitupwa kwa bank straight, KRA wanaenda kuchungulia. Airtel gets 2-year license extension amid 1.7 billion shillings unpaid fees. Maswala ya solar pale on the ticker, 355 farms get EPRA solar licenses. Incidentally, have you seen Kenya Power have reported 43.8 billion shillings profit?
Ooh.
Yes.
Since
Watashangaa sasa kama wana pesa mingi hivyo, Adani anakuja kufanya nini? Na deal yake ni only 95 billion. Anyway, 4 banks to handle shift contributions is another quick highlight on this front page of the Business Daily. Infrastructure bonds fetching premiums, and finally shopkeepers hand Kenyans credit lifelines. Listen to this. Credit advanced by shopkeepers in the form of goods and services has become a lifeline for consumers amid a slowdown in loans from formal channels such as banks. So unaenda kununua mkate na una pesa, anakuambia chukua tu, na kitabu anaandika.
Na note down.
We have to survive either way.
End of month sasa ndo unaanza nakuja na calculator.
We have to survive either way. Finally tumalizie na star na because of time tuharakishe kidogo.
So Kindiki's big test is on the front page of the Star. To mobilize restive Gema behind Ruto, I have a photo there of the president as well as deputy president-elect. Designate. I was told both of them also work because members of parliament elected him according to Article 1.
Elected, yes.
Yes. And they say political clout is a question. His overriding mission is to, quote-unquote, undo Gachagwa's damage. On the right side, sex for money is a conversation there. It says students' gay fling exposes health dangers. Kwingineko revealed top killer diseases in the country. 6 counties account for a quarter of all the diseases outbreaks reported in Kenya for the last 15 years, the Minister of Health surveillance reporters said. The analysis also says Kenya is battling more outbreaks every single year. Something else about lawmakers and something that you need to know, particularly for boundaries. Lawmakers deferred review of boundaries. It is almost now official that Kenyans will have to wait until 2027 general election for review of the boundaries of the 290 constituencies. This paper can report. This is after key parliamentary committee agreed to push for the postponement of the delimitation process. More is on page 6. The fact that you're going to be having members of parliament here, because I remember early this year, talking about this and why we really need to have this review of boundaries as early as now. But then the fact that it has been pushed to 2027 wabunge atatuambia what does this mean.
Well, pushing it also requires an amendment to the constitution because the deadlines are set out in the constitution, not an act of parliament, but in the constitution. So if you're pushing it, you're changing the constitution either way. Finally, uliweka wapi karakacha? Sioni karakacha.
Wacha tusaidiwe nazo.
Aha. Help us with the cartoons as we finish up. All right, there you go. We do have, this is a Stano's take. That's a People Daily.
Yes.
Ruto's 2 years. Nako pale na wheelbarrow pale chini with a square wheel. Lakini pale amebeba mzigo kubwa ya corruption, abductions, finance bill, stadium ambazo haziko, Adani, no deputy president,
affordable housing project.
Ai, hiyo wheelbarrow itaenda kweli na it's a square wheel. Well, that's a cartoon mistake, not mine.
Na terrain hapo chini ni kokoto ama ni mapebbles.
Mambo ni magumu.
Yes.
That's a People Daily. The next one, that's the one on The Nation.
Yes.
And as the president tells us, hii kelele mingi ni propaganda. This is just a list.
Yes.
Same as the burden on his wheelbarrow. This is just another list of things that need to be done. And it's been stamped urgent. Kuna the issue of debt, unemployment. Did you see how many people showed up for the 8,000 jobs in Qatar?
Yeah.
Over 97,000 people. Yes. Chief Shah continues to be a big deal. University funding model, abductions, impeachment of his deputy.
Now gets a green tick because
chini hapo term limits na impeachment.
Yes.
Because hizo wamemaliza. Hizo ndo wamefanya.
Yes.
Hizi zingine zote yakuja.
Priorities.
Priorities, yes.
Very keen.
Finally, on the Standard.
Yes.
So pale, jamaa amevaa red. Na ameshika certificate ya KK ya yellow.
It's an acronym of Western.
So anasema flashback to January 2023. Pale amesema mambo marefu na anasema, and this is the funny part, that just him saying what he says is actually funny enough to be a cartoon because this is what he said.
Yes.
He said, "What I want to promise each and every Kenyan is that from now on, state capture is going to end. Taxpayer-funded contracts will onwards or not go to public officials, not even the political connected." But you can see all the words starting those sentences are in red, which reads out, you can read for yourself. It's WEASTON.
It mirrors what Daily Nation had yesterday, and covering all that.
So yes, not even those politically connected. So I don't know why that West something hotel is there. So yes, that's a cartoon on the Standard today. Matuswala Karakacha. So these are the headlines we'll be looking at with our panelists later on. Daniel Manduku, MP Nyaribari Masaba, and Joe Mutambo, former MP Mwingi Central. So do stand by for this and a lot more. But also, do stand by for the other discussion coming up at 8 a.m.
Yes, matters Can We Stay partners and the whole inheritance trust that comes with it. In Kenya right now, there's just so many of them. So stick around for that. And then coming up later on at around 9 a.m., we do Agri-Talk. We just get to know on matters sunflower, how it is harvested and all the way.
All right.
Yes.
Maswala ya traffic tunaweza angalia later on at 8 because time has really moved. By then, I think mambo itakuwa gagna gagna. So yeah, let's take a break right now. You're watching Morning Cafe.
Hey there friends, welcome to Kids on the Block, where fun and imagination come alive. We dive into magical world filled with exciting adventures and awesome friends.
What position were you in?
I was number 2.
What position were you?
Number 1.
He decided to cross the bridge by his house and look for food on the other side.
We're going to do half cup of chocolate chips
And the other one, we're going to do half cup of the blueberries.
So, grab your imagination hats and get ready to explore with us. Join us every Saturday at 9 a.m. for new friends, amazing stories, and tons of laughter.
Join us as we explore the journeys of those who defy the odds and break barriers. We dive deep into the stories of triumph.
Sometimes when parenting a child with a special need or whatever disability, family life becomes a bit complicated and you may end up raising the child on your own.
Here, we inspire.
I have a farm which one we showcase with other dyslexic youths and autism, how to farm.
Motivate.
It's never easy, but what we do, the best thing is to work with another parent who has an elder child than yours.
And break through the barriers one story at a time. Push your boundaries beyond the limit. Saturdays at 8 p.m. The Grind, where business meets brilliance. It's not just about the ideas.
I was working as a shampoo boy. I used to wash clients' hair on the sink.
It's about making them happen. From big wins.
In primary school, when we would be asked what people want to be, I was categorical that I want to be a nurse.
To hard lessons.
The consoles change, the gaming equipment keep changing.
We cover it all. Tune in to The Grind, where every episode is packed with insights.
The person who is serving customers, always be a customer-centric.
Strategies.
When you pay attention to detail, you get luxury items.
And stories to fuel your ambition. Don't just dream it, grind it. Mondays at 7:30 p.m.
Jiunge nasi tunapoangazia safari za viongozi bora. Kutoka kwa ushindi mkubwa hadi masomo magumu.
Wakati wetu kwamba wasichana si wa kusoma, ni wa kuolewa, ng'ombe ipatikane, wazazi wakuwe watajiri.
Tunashughulikia yote.
I wish I were a better investor.
My parents taught me how to look for things for myself.
Tazama Mfahamu Kiongozi, ambapo kila kipindi kimejaa maarifa, mikakati na hadithi za kukuza azma yako.
For me to succeed, I have to fight.
Kila Alhamisi saa 1:30.
All right, welcome back. You're watching Morning Cafe on TV47. Time for us to take a look at the state of the nation. My name is Freddie Ndmuli. A quick look at the dailies this morning, and the headlines are varied. No agreement on the big story today. The Star goes with Kindiki's big test to mobilize a restive gamer behind Ruto. Question is he able to reverse the disquiet in the region? On the front page of the Daily Nation, they talk about how police use phones to track and capture suspects. On the Standard, how Devani walked free from 7.6 billion shilling Triton scam. There's a story on the Star And it's on the front page, lawmakers defer review of boundaries. Allow me to introduce my panelists this morning. Two gentlemen. Daniel Manduku, MP Nyaribari Masaba. Good morning. Karibu sana.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
And Joe Mutambo, former MP Mwingi Central. Gentlemen, if we could start with that issue of the review of boundaries, which is on page 6 of the Star. It's a very small story that's hidden even on page 6, that's at the bottom strip. And they say it is almost official now that Kenyans will have to wait until after 2027 general election for the review of boundaries of the 290 constituencies. This is after a parliamentary committee agreed to push for the postponement of the delimitation process. IEBC is required by law to review names and boundaries of constituencies by the Electoral Commission, but the Electoral Commission has remained dysfunctional for almost 2 years now. Now, this is despite the kind of effectiveness of Parliament that we've seen in the past couple of weeks. But yet when it comes to the reconstitution of the IEBC, you've really had a back and forth. Now it looks like, yes, we might get an IEBC or at least a selection panel probably in the coming weeks. But that has had significant effects on issues that have been provided for by the Constitution. The deadline for delimitation of boundaries lapsed in March this year, so we're already in defiance of the Constitution. This is a requirement. So should we expect an amendment from a parliamentary initiative, because MPs are the ones that push for this?
Thank you, and good morning, viewers. The law provided for the delimitation of constituency boundaries and set the lower limit at 8 years and the upper limit to 12 years. It is true that due to the dysfunctional state of the Independent Electoral and Boundaries Commission, this deadline has now been met or surpassed. And so, through a parliamentary initiative, there is need to extend the period so that there can be time for the IEBC to be not only reconstituted, but also go around and gather views on the possibility of the review of the boundaries. But let me say this, that if you look at the Constitution, the number of constituencies is set. And a reading of the Constitution tells me that the IEBC is under no obligation to increase the constituencies. Because again, you remember, as a result of the negotiations, the Serena negotiations, we had constituencies which were protected and which to date have not met the minimum threshold. So in as much as, yes, there's need to review the boundaries, but who says that review means increase? Furthermore, there's always a belief that the Kenyan Parliament, as currently constituted, generally overrepresents. If you look at other jurisdictions, for example, you realize that compared to the population that we have, 290 constituencies and 349 elected members of parliament or members of the National Assembly, generally, in terms of ratio, this country has too many members of the National Assembly compared to other countries. India, compared to the United States of America, compared to Ghana, compared to Nigeria, and even our neighbors, Uganda and Tanzania. And so I don't think it's a priority for me.
Yet it's provided for in the Constitution. Are we saying
that the Constitution is a living document.
Inconvenient for
the Constitution is a living document. And living documents or living things, creatures, always do change.
But there's a challenge with that.
It is possible.
Bwana Mutambo, there's a challenge with what Manduku is saying, that yes, Constitution is a living document. Yet if we fail to correctly follow procedures, even in defiance of the Constitution or in looking for ways to go around some of these provisions, will be totally defying what we have had anticipated or hoped for ourselves. The issue being that if we can conveniently find a loophole not to abide by the Constitution on this particular issue, then if at all the election date next time is inconvenient for us, we may look for a way to change it. After all, we say it is a living document. Even the election date can change. Even issues like basic structure, the issue of governance, anything can change if at all it is just a living document and we can define it without any consequence.
You know, there's a saying which goes, those who are hitting with forks and spoons, they don't realize that those who are hitting with the bare hands are getting burned by the same food they're eating. Right? There's that saying. When somebody is comfortable where they are, it is very difficult for them to understand that others are suffering. When we talk of review, and he has rightly put it, that it's not necessary to increase. You can also decrease. All right? It's not necessary to have more. And the review is to evaluate. We created 290 constituencies. How are they serving Kenyans? We created 47 counties. How are they serving Kenyans? That is the purpose of reviewing the boundaries. You see, reviewing is not just going and cutting and adding and no. And I will tell Kenyans that the current situation or the current boundaries are very unfair to some certain areas of our country. You know, I've been to his constituency before he became a member of parliament. I went there with a former member of parliament. And I can tell you, his constituency is like a sublocation in Mwingi Central. Sublocation, not even a location. The total acreage, square kilometers. Right? One county by the name Lamu is smaller than my location called Wingemi. A location. And we have 6. Right? So what does that tell you? One county called Kitui is larger than Kiambu, Meru, Nyeri, I don't know, Murang'a, I don't know, Nairobi, all of them combined. So when we talk of review, those are the things we are talking about. How are Kenyans being served by the current stature of the boundaries we have? Is it fair to have some counties, small counties? Okay, they may claim about the population. Yes, the population may be there. But do you know the same energy you spend, okay, to meet all those people is equally the same as serving large numbers seated in one place, right? So for me, I think it is disrespect to the law, right? When we say we are not going to abide to the Constitution, because this is a constitutional requirement. Why are we not saying, okay, it's a constitutional requirement to have nominated members of parliament or senators or MCAs. Let us not appoint. We can defer. Why are we not saying that? Why are we saying we can defer when it comes to the service of Kenyans? Because this review is to the benefit of common management. It's not benefit. It's not to a member of parliament or disadvantage to a member of parliament or a governor. Oh, well, it is to the advantage of common mwananchi. Why are we devouring what is benefiting a common person as opposed to what is benefiting individual or leaders in this country? So that is where we go wrong. And I am very disturbed by the way we look at our laws in our country. And on that breath, allow me to say one thing, which caught me on Saturday. Mm-hmm. Our health system. All Kenyans believe or trust or hope that government of Kenya will give them proper health as per the Constitution. But I want to shock you. I got a sick brother on Saturday, and I went to Kenyatta. And this was an emergency. And when I go through our laws, the Health Act, our Constitution, every Kenyan has a right to health despite their status of whether they are able to pay or not. When I went to Kenyatta, I was told my brother cannot be admitted if I don't have 100,000. And it was an emergency. The guy was confessing. He has some confession and he was almost literally dying. And the doctors refused. We were saved by Coptic. We went to Coptic. And they refused. You see? So, and they are doing their business, not respecting the law. Okay. And this is what is happening everywhere. So what am I saying? Kenyans, you are on your own.
My concern is how politicians approach the Constitution. It's almost like an inconvenience. I'm talking about, especially on this issue of the boundaries review. I know there has been this discussion about population size, population quota, and it would appear that it's such a hot potato that most politicians are finding this discussion very inconvenient, that no one wants to talk about because probably it will get towards that discussion of one man, 1 shilling, 1 vote. It could get closer to that some constituencies have more people than others, hence the need to adjust the boundaries probably within the same 290 constituencies. Don't you agree that that's even at the highest ranks of politics in this country, no one wants that, at least not before 2027, among the political class?
Boundaries review, among other things, look at various criteria. Population is one of the key criteria that they look at. They also look at what they call the geographical features. They look at anthropological and historical ties. But the good thing about boundary review also, it always affects the next parliament. Yes, there's a lot of discomfort, given that we know there is underrepresentation in some constituencies. We know that the Building Bridges Initiative had come up with a proposal to increase constituencies in some areas. In fact, if I remember correctly, Central Kenya was going to get about 70 constituencies, so as to try and make it a bit fairer in terms of those we represent. It is true that some members in parliament represent as little as 40,000 people, while others actually represent 10 times that number. Yes, politically, there could be discomfort. But then, again, remember, the reason why this boundaries review has not been done has nothing to do with us in Parliament. It has everything to do with the non-selection of the panel to interview the potential commissioners. Now, what happened?
Are you absolving Parliament from that debate?
Someone went to court. Someone went to court and said that one member was not supposed to sit in that panel. And that is what has held back this review. Now, granted, yes, we know that the IEBC will soon be in place. And the subject of boundaries delimitation is bound to be very emotive and very hot. And it makes quite a number of politicians quite discomfortable or uncomfortable for that matter. But then, as you say, it is the law. And we must do what the law says. But ultimately, I think that once this matter comes to the National Assembly, in fact, it is just in the papers, but we've not seen it in the National Assembly yet. Once it comes to the National Assembly, we'll then debate it objectively and probably give our positions at that time.
The concern now is how do we handle such, because we're already in defiance of the Constitution. Now you're proposing to push it to a different...
There's a key to that. You know, once this comes to Parliament, it will come as a constitutional amendment, which then will go through the requirement of the 2/3 majority, which I'm sure we can master. And
now
also,
there's confidence.
Don't forget that this issue was actually part of the National Dialogue Committee report, the NADCO report, touched on the boundaries review, among other unfulfilled tasks by the IEBC. So once the IEBC is reconstituted, this is a priority matter. And thereafter, start on the registration of voters, because you cannot start registering voters without having the boundaries properly delimited.
So we only have 3 years to go to 2027. There's a lot of work for the IEBC that is yet to be constituted, preparing for an election, talking about registering voters, possible delimitation of boundaries, possibility of constitutional amendment that could require a referendum. All these things, are we just pushing ourselves into a corner and probably so that politicians can find a way to say, okay, fine, it's too much to bite. Let's push it beyond that.
Because of, I would call it personal interest. And this is in bias to the government, that the government would want to do what it wants to do. When it comes to clearing my good friend Kidiki, the IBC was in court and said they have the powers to do so. They were in court. When something else was needed for them to do, and that time it was not convenient for the government, they wrote and said, we are not
constituted.
We are not constituted. Mm-hmm. You see, one institution saying two different things at the same time. So you wonder, at whose interest, or if I may put it as a trolley, in whose hands is Kenyan safe? Because when an institution comes and tells you, we cannot do this, and when it is convenient for them, they come and say, we can do this, and nothing has changed. We have not gotten the commissioners. Okay? Now, if you have minds to think, you ask yourself, where am I? Am I in the right place? What is happening in our country? When it comes to the issues of constitutional matters, or matters constitutional, whereby we are bound by the Constitution to do this, there is no escape route. Because whatever is supposed to be done on the issues of boundaries review is set in the law. If the law says that after 10 or 12 years, review the boundaries, you don't have to go and seek another opinion from no one. What you need is the budget to do that. So the work of the parliament is to allocate budget to IEBC to conduct this constitutional requirement. Now, once parliament fails to do that, anybody can move to court. Because they have failed to do a constitutional requirement. I see this, allow me, I use a little bit of French, busybodies calling themselves activists, running to court, saying we do not have enough women in court and we want to dissolve parliament. I've seen them, but I've never seen one going to court to say we have not reviewed our boundaries. Right? Because they know where the catch is. They want where to hit meat where the part which is soft. Okay? But they do what really hurts Kenyans. Nobody is bothering. And this is what is disturbing me as we sit here.
Okay. And is it time probably that now that you're considering possible amendments to the Constitution, it is the IEBC's role to review boundaries, but there are those who argue that it is such an emotive process that if you link it up with the electoral process, it becomes too much for one body, that probably the process of delimitation of boundaries should be delinked from the electoral process and have a totally different body carry out boundaries delimitation when needed, and IEBC just to focus on the electoral process. It is one of those suggestions given by the IEBC CEO, Marjan.
If you look at the theory of it, it makes perfect sense. But practically, this is what we have been doing since independence, that the body mandated to carry out elections is the same body that also is mandated to carry out boundary reviews. And the reason is very simple. Boundary reviews don't happen as frequently as elections do occur. And in fact, as set out in the law, the 8-year period on the lower side and the 12-year period on the upper side was typically to make sure that there's no synchrony in the two. That the election cycle will obviously fall outside the boundary review cycle. And that's why they put 12 years. And no one foresaw that. But now we're in a situation where it's most likely going to happen that the boundaries review will come just a few months or just 1 year to the, I think the law says 1 year to the, not is it 2 years or 1 year? I think it's 1 year to the election. So unless we do it by 2026, then it will not work. And that is why I think, in my opinion, the boundaries review should be fast-tracked and be done by end of next year, so that we have got 1.5 plus years before the next election cycle. But going forward, I think it is important that boundaries review be done by an ad hoc body, that a body is created every so often, say every 12 years or every 20 years, to just do a boundary review, and Parliament can have the oversight role. After that, the body is disbanded, so that the electoral body concentrates on matters, registration of voters, conducting the election, and announcing the results. This could be a way forward.
It is just
a
a
way
proposal.
out.
Yes. And of course, the headline reads inside the Star, dashed hopes as MPs resolve to defer boundary review to 2027. But that has implications on our constitution. How do we handle this? We will wait to see. Let's take a break now. When we come back, let's discuss politics of Mount Kenya and the expectations on the Deputy President designate. Will he be able to resolve the disquiet within the Mount Kenya region? That after the break.
Hey there, friends. Welcome to Kids on the Block, where fun and imagination come alive. We dive into magical world filled with exciting adventures and awesome friends.
What position were you in? I was number 2.
What position were you?
Number 1.
He decided to cross the bridge by his house and look for food on the other side.
We're going to do half cup of chocolate chips, and the other one, we're going to do half cup of the blueberries.
So, grab your imagination hats and get ready to explore with us. Join us every Saturday at 9 a.m. for new friends, amazing stories, and tons of laughter.
Kindiki's big test to mobilize restive Gema behind. That's a big, behind Ruto. That's a big headline on the front page of the Star this morning. You're watching Morning Cafe. This is State of the Nation, where we take a look at the big headlines. And I'm still here with Joe Mutambo, former MP Mwingi Central, and Daniel Manduku, MP Nyaribari Masaba constituency. Let's take a look at this politics. A lot has changed in the last few weeks. The realignments in politics have been mind-boggling to so many Kenyans. In fact, looking at people, many people have taken a back step to just try and understand what exactly is happening. We saw on Sunday at church service in Uasin Gishu that it was ODM MPs who are accompanying the president now and singing his praises and saying, "We are behind you," which was previously a job reserved for Kenya Kwanza MPs accompanying the president for church service. ODM is now fighting for a bigger stake in government. Now we have the deputy president designate. He has a very big job to mobilize Gema behind Ruto. We've seen the kind of disquiet, especially coming from the impeachment of Rigathi Gachagua. We've had even statements made by the president himself. During Madaraka Day, many would argue that he almost attempted to rewrite history by mentioning every other freedom fighter in Kenya and ignoring one region particularly, and leaving out the even known names of freedom fighters who in history have been talked about. That how would it be possible for any one person, Kithure Kindiki or any other, to correct that going forward? Bwana Mutambo.
I pity my good friend Kindiki, because that is not a task to send anybody today. Kindiki is a very nice person, outgoing, he interacts with everyone, he has no enemies, right? But the virtue of his boss, right, being the one who has created all this. Because what I want to say is this: if Ruto himself, not to send anybody, this is not the time when God sends angels, it is God to come himself. This is the time for Ruto himself, not sending anybody, to try and see if he can make peace with Mount Kenya. And not only Mount Kenya. There are other places. There are people who worked so hard for Ruto to become what he is today. And he is not, if he is not going to recollect himself and get these people back and talk to them, Kalonzo will be the president. Take this to the bank.
Okay.
If Ruto is not going to engage the people he engaged when he became the president, if he thinks that he has gotten a new ally and he is comfortable, he is in safe haven, we've been there with ODM. We as a community, as a region, ask me. And for your information, Eastern now, where I come from, we border 66 provinces. We border Northeastern, we border Coast, we border Central, we border Rift Valley, we border Nairobi. Okay? But we never made alliances with our neighbors. We went to Western and Nyanza. We left the rest. So I know the East very well. And I know how, and I don't want to categorize any region here, but I know how we were treated. And this will not be new treatment to Ruto when it comes to 2027. Watch this space. One thing I know, Baba, whether it's in AU or not, whether you put him on a wheelbarrow or on a car, Raila will buy. So if Ruto feels that he's so comfortable with that new alliance whereby he's now being received by Kaluma, and you see that deceiving smile of my good friend Kaluma when he tells him, okay, you know, I read a lot of things which are not pronounced there. I hear them. But what I'm saying is this, and I remember quoting here, Ruto and Mount Kenya is kaput, finished. And it's done.
That's exactly the image that the president has been painting over the past few weeks. He has even cancelled planned events. For example, he had been invited to a church in Embu where he had confirmed his attendance. He last minute cancelled that. We've seen him going elsewhere. Since the impeachment of the deputy president, we've not seen the president go into the Mount Kenya region for any event. It would appear that he is done with that kind of the support he had received earlier from that region. Do you think, as Bwana Mutambo says, that he should really be sitting pretty, knowing that he has new alliances elsewhere and that he's well covered without the Gema region behind him?
I think my opinion is that the president cannot sit pretty, knowing very well that those who voted for him are now not supporting him as much as they did. Even we politicians, sometimes when we lose one supporter, we behave like the proverbial shepherd who left 99 sheep to go and look for the one sheep. It is incumbent upon His Excellency the President to try and get back as much support as he can from Mount Kenya. But having said that, I think the impeached Deputy President, Honorable Rigathi Gachagua, has managed to sell a narrative that anyone taking this position from the mountain should be seen as a traitor. And something worries me very much. If you watched the events of the weekend in Dumberi, where we had a simple concert, which was meant to, among other things, celebrate the birthday of the retired president, and you saw the level of mobilization, and I would call it ethnic mobilization. And you saw Maina Jenga speak. And unfortunately, most of the people in that concert were young people. I think there's going to be a new Kikuyu renaissance, reawakening. And whichever leader they choose to follow will be key in the next election in deciding or determining the way the election goes, whether presidential or parliamentary. We in the Orange Democratic Movement, as instructed by our party leader, are supporting the government. It is possible that our party leader decides to withdraw the support.
It is possible.
And we will follow our party leader. Baba akisema right, we go right. Baba akisema front, we go front. Akisema back, we go back. That's how we work in the ODM.
Do you agree with his assessment that something could happen?
Well, it is good to be an optimist. You know, John Mutambo is a pessimist. I'm optimistic that this marriage or this friendship will hold to 2027 and beyond. Because so far we have no reason to doubt the president. But should our party leader tell us otherwise, then as loyal party supporters, we shall go that way.
Okay.
And so it's always good to have a reserve. And I urge the leadership to actually reconsider making friends with our brothers from Central Kenya.
Do you think he has what it takes, President Ruto, within the team that he has around him from that region, including the choice of Kithure Kindiki? Do you think he has what it takes and the proper tools to actually regain that support?
The good thing about politics also, it is dynamic. You can make new allies, you can make new friends, you can mend fences. It is possible because we still have 3 years. And I think knowing him, I think he has the capacity and the instruments to do that.
Yet listening to the president during his Mashujaa Day speech, and it was very intentional, he said, the heroes of our independence did not come from a single village. Anyone who understands that kind of language would know. And him consequently leaving out a particular region from his list of heroes that he mentioned, clearly pointed out the region that he seemed to push away. That, in your assessment, was that the right move for the president, really? Was it necessary?
That was a political suicide. That one. You see, in Kino, Mount Kenya, at your own peril. You can say whatever you want to say. You can take your pen and calculator and paper and say, on Nyanza, I have these votes, in Western, I have this, in Central, I have this. I'll get a few from Mukambani, I'll get a few from there. Then you see you have 10, 20, 30. Do that. But in reality, it's a different ball game. Ask him. Maybe what he anticipated to get is not what he got. Maybe he was surprised even in some polling stations because he expected to get 500 and he went there and he got 2 or even 30. It happens like that. All right? So, such a statement coming from a head of state and directly affecting or targeting a region, which is, I would say, we vote almost 14 million or 15. And that region has a quarter of what we vote. All the votes we cast, that region has a quarter. The 2 quarter is with other Kenyans. Because if they vote 3, 4, 5 million, and we have voted 14, what does that tell you? That is not a region to ignore or to make some such statements. If our, and I'm not speaking from a point of being a presidential advisor, but if I was advisor, I would advise him. This is, if you don't like them, you don't want them, you better even keep quiet, not to talk about or to make any utterances, which will make them feel or see as if we are targeting them in one way or the other. Every Kenyan knows very well that the freedom fighters, mainly, we know, even us, we know we have Mwindi Bingu, we had so many, but we don't brag about them. We give respect to those who started the journey, right? We know them, and they are known, and they are in our history books, even if some of us maybe were not born, but we know them. And to come today on a national, when we're celebrating now that freedom, and you say that this thing was brought by this and you guys are making a lot of noise, you are not part of it. To me, I think it was uncalled for, and the president should apologize to people of Mount Kenya over that statement so that he can start, in politics, there's no shame. If there's anybody who abused Ruto, it's one Hassan Joho. If there's anybody who abused Ruto, it's Opiyo Adai. I remember fighting in parliament with Opiyo. Those who were of the government, and by then Ruto was in that government of Uhuru Kenyatta, and those who were opposing. And I remember Opiyo being chased away from parliament because he was out of order, right? And he was fighting the same government of Ruto. And so if there are people who spoke bad words against Ruto, are people from ODM. But where are they today? In his government. Likewise, let him come down and see how he can approach Mount Kenya. Let him see how he can approach Ukambani, because he has neglected those areas completely. He has neglected. You don't want to hear about them. But what I want to tell him, Mount Kenya with 5 million votes and Ukambani 1, that is 6. That is 6. So when you go on, Mark said, you need to understand there's somebody with the 6 million here. And that person is hiding some leftovers in your Rift Valley, is hiding some leftovers in Nyanza, because there are leftovers in Nyanza, there are leftovers in Western, there are leftovers in the coast, there are leftovers everywhere. That person, he has 6 or 7 million and is going to look for the leftovers. So don't sit pretty and ignoring those regions. So to answer your question, those remarks were uncalled for, and the president could not have done that. I am very much disturbed when I hear that you want to tell Kidigi, do this. Yeah, maybe. And we've been there with other regimes, with other ministers in Interior, with the other PSs in Interior. And the people used to, members of parliament used to go to those offices, and they promised we can do this, but never happened. And this region called Kikuyu, I told you, I know it very well. They are my in-law. That is where my beautiful, loving wife comes from. I know how they behave. And at this moment, going by what Maduka has alluded to, what you saw, that was just the beginning of things to come. And I'm telling you, if I were Kalonzo, that was gear number 1. I could have engaged now the 4-wheel for that mountain, and I turn it upside down, because politics is all about perception.
Yes.
And if people see that you have the numbers behind you, even those of Maduku may start thinking, could this man be the next president? Let me align myself.
Looking at it from the direction of ODM, it might prop up your ego even more. And it has. We've seen in the past few days the headlines talking about how now ODM is claiming its pound of flesh, because you're the ones holding the presidency and the reins of power in this country, that the president in some way has managed to alienate a huge support base that got him elected, and now he's dependent on you, and now you're calling the shots. When you say you want the position of CS Interior, you might just get it. That appears to give too much power to ODM. Don't you agree?
I told you, Fred, politics is the art of the impossible, and politics is dynamic. I know a couple of my colleagues may be mesmerized that they now have access to offices that they didn't even imagine they would ever enter into. But saying that we are holding the presidency, I think, is a wrong impression. What we are doing is that we are supporting. It's like we are at the 4th column, or if it was a structure, we are helping with the structural integrity.
Without
then,
which he would...
This support comes with conditions. And you know very well, so far, a few of our members are in cabinet already. We expect many of our members to join the civil service at the level of PSS, among other things.
More cabinet positions.
And so this support is conditional. We are in a relationship we would call strictly transactional. And this support is only guaranteed as far as our party leader is comfortable. Because we are also a political party. We are also eyeing the presidency. And so our support will go up to 2027 or even beyond, depending on how we are treated. But having said that, let me also say this, that you cannot rewrite history. In fact, if you just go to our history books, you will read all the freedom fighters this country has had. Some of them have even been honored by this same government. You remember the late President Mwai Kibaki during the traditional Kenyatta Day celebrations or Jamhuri Day celebrations would honor some of those legends. And so I think it is good to know that history cannot be changed midstream. But as ODM, we're also reasonable. We don't ask for what we cannot get. And I'm not in a position to speak for the party. But then we're here to support the government for as long as we are comfortable.
Okay. This conditional support could come back to haunt the president. He's left himself a bit vulnerable with the alienation of the Mount Kenya region. ODM has been known to come into administrations and implode from within. They did that with when the cockerel swallowed the tractor, NDP. And we saw what happened then. We've seen what potentially a disagreement with Raila Odinga inside government did to Mwai Kibaki as well. Do you think that William Ruto and his administration right now have the muscle to survive such an implosion? If ODM gets to a point and say, okay, fine, I don't think this deal is working for us any longer, where would that leave William Ruto, now that he has already alienated one region?
If Raila Amolo Odinga pulls out, Ruto is finished. There's no more Ruto. Today, Ruto is breathing politically because of Raila's support. He saw that one pillar has left him, which is Mount Kenya. Quickly, he grabbed another pillar and brought him in to support him so that he can stand politically. If that pillar goes away today, trust you me, that is the end of Ruto. He will have to start afresh. He'll have to go and look, where is Mutambu? Where is so and so? Where is this person who can support me? At least I get the 2,000-3,000 votes which I got the last time. He will have to do that. But as we speak today, the only person making Ruto stand politically, yes, he has the government, he has the machinery, constitutionally, he is the president, and we respect that. Okay? He is the one. But trust you me, if Raila pulls out today, okay, and says, you know what, I'm going my way, and actually tomorrow, maandamano. Trust you me, that tomorrow will be maandamano. Forget about these other guys who are saying, tomorrow we're going to talk, without the support of Raila. Even those occupying, I don't know what. Sometimes they may not get the gravitas of taking it to the next level. But when Raila is with the Ruto, he can sleep pretty. But I want to tell him, we've been there. And I am not saying that it is only the members or elected leaders who follow their party leaders. Let me tell you what happened in Ukambani. I was campaigning for Uhuru and Ruto. And I took those guys to Ukambani, literally when nobody wanted to see them. And my good friend Kalonzo Musyoka went around the same Ukambani telling people of Ukambani, don't listen to Mutambo. These Kikuyus are bad people. These Kalejins are bad people. Let us not even see them in Ukambani. Okay? And by that, I was voted out. Luckily, Uhuru and Ruto got the seat. Now, after election, and those people refused to hear me, and they actually even chased me away. They never gave me vote, apart from few whom I command. I'm grateful. Few months after election, the same Kalonzo Musyoka and Uhuru joined hands. What happened? The entire Ukambani followed Uhuru. The same man they were told is a bad person. Now when Kalonzo came in, every Ukamba person was for Uhuru. All right? Likewise, today, Madugu can even go and tell his people, no, let us not. Whatever the party leader says in our political landscape, whether the kingpin of those sites, the kingpin of Ukambani, kingpin of whatever they say is what people follow. And this is what I fear for Ruto. And decoy, or 360 turn of Raila Amolo Odinga, not Kaluma, not Maduku, not Junet. Junet may revolt, or any other person, but a 360 turn, or even a 45-degree turn of Raila Amolo Odinga is the end of Ruto, is done. So we are looking at a scenario whereby Ruto has a lot of work to do. Because one, he has created so many enemies, and he has left his friends outside in the cold. So I don't know where he will start. Because those who are in court, they are like, this man, we supported you. Now you left us. Now the need has come. Are we going to support you again or not? So there's also that question whereby he can lose either 50 or 70% of his supporters who supported him last time because of ignoring them until this moment. So that's also another dangerous story. We are not only looking at Raila, we are also looking at Ruto's. And go take a pen and paper, okay? Every constituency, who supported Ruto? This one, where is he today? This one supported, where is he today? This one supported, where is he today? Including Moses Kuria. Where are they today? So all those people, he shoved them, he put them aside, okay? Those who supported him, now he has a new alliance, which is conditional. The others supported him unconditionally. But here now we have a conditional support, whereby if these conditions are not met, and you can meet these conditions, and at the same time they tell you, okay, fine, hii ilikuwa na mambo ya siasa, na kwa siasa hakuna shukurani. Ask Maduku, he meets some people on the road, he gives them 10 bob, 20 bob, and they don't say thank you. They meet you tomorrow, you'll have to give again. Yes. So this is politics.
But now, even beyond the politics, in as far as delivery of services to Kenyans, if you look at the cartoons today, and my director can help me with this, the cartoon on the People Daily and the cartoon on the Daily Nation has listed a number of things that many Kenyans are facing. That these are things that, yes, that's a cartoon on the Standard. Now it talks about state capture. But yes, this one is the one from the Daily Nation. It has lists, to-do list for the president and the government, even stamped urgent. And the debts, unemployment, overtaxation, SHIF and SHA, that's the transition to the new healthcare system, university funding model, abductions. Only 2 down there have been marked green. Those ones have been achieved so far. That's the issue of impeachment of the deputy president and that debate about term limits. I don't know why it's been ticked. There's the cartoon on the People Daily as well, which portrays the president, Ruto's 2 years. His wheelbarrow has a square wheel, meaning it's not even turning comfortably. It is already laden with corruption, abduction, same list. Stadiums, finance bill, affordable housing, Adani saga, no deputy president, the transition between NHIF and SHIF. Kenyans are feeling the pressure. If you look at the front page of the Daily Nation, they have 2 stories on the right strip, the right-hand strip, the Daily Nation. They have the president saying, stop propaganda. President chides government critics. So he says he's defending his remarkable performance in the past 2 years, saying those attacking the Kenya Kwanza administration are spreading fake news and propaganda. But right below that story is a story about healthcare. So there's baby Ariana left in the lurch in India amid SHIF fiasco. Not NHIF, not any other thing. So this social security, social health insurance fund that we are transiting into, of which many Kenyans for the first time are looking at their pay slips this end month, and some of them are fainting just seeing the amount of money deducted directly from them, yet people are dying. Someone like baby Ariana is still at a hospital in India because they cannot pay 500,000 shillings. Yet the president says this is propaganda. Now that you're propping up this administration, you are the one pillar that is holding on and supporting this administration. Should we blame ODM as well? You've taken up the mantle.
ODM is, in English, we are what we call Johnny come lately.
So these are not your problems.
These are not our problems. But we are willing, and we know that we are able to help the government streamline some of these problems. Truth be said, I have just come from my rural area, and our people are grappling with the very basics of life. When this administration came into power, they promised many things, many lofty things, including pesa mfukoni. I can tell you, Fred, if I give you my phone now, you'll find at least 4 or 5 messages. In fact, probably by now, 10 messages of people who have gone to hospital between last night and this morning and who are unable to access the facilities because of this insurance. Mm-hmm. In Parliament, the Committee on Health has tried its level best. And so far, what we've been getting are promises that this system will be working. In fact, I remember on 20th of October, during the Mashujaa Day, if I'm not correct, and if my memory serves me right, the head of state himself promised that within a week, this will be working. We are not asking for too much. We are saying, let the health system work. Let the funding model work in the universities. Let us start seeing government committed to creating opportunities. I was very saddened when I saw close to 80,000 Kenyans lining up to take low cadre jobs in Qatar. Mm-hmm. It is even more painful when you realize that half of those people are graduates who've gone to school and whose only hope to a good life was going to school. We get messages from many parents who say, you know, I took a loan to take my child to school, and now he's a teacher. He's been out 5 years, 6 years down the line. And yet when teachers are getting employed, it is those from other regions that got the opportunities. These are the things that we are coming to fix in government, because we feel that they are ultimately wrong. And so I think these cartoons depict the hopelessness many people are feeling, or the frustrations that our people are feeling. And sometimes as Member of Parliament, you can only but sympathize, because you also have limits. Let me give you an example, Fred. In my other life, when I was in private sector, I was able to take one of the best insurances, medical insurances, which among other things guaranteed even air rescue. Now, if you look at the contributions that we are bound to make now to SHIF, they exceed that insurance, private sector insurance. In fact, you need to do a survey and go to whether it is Old Mutual, whether it is APA insurance, whether it is Jubilee, or even international ones like Bupa. And ask yourself, are we guaranteed the same quality or better quality in healthcare to these private sector insurances? And that is the ultimate test of the effectiveness and efficiency of this scheme. Because we don't want to get into a situation where the SHIF will have billions of shillings in the account, and then all of a sudden you hear that now they're buying land in Kajiado to build a university, mm-hmm. or that they are going to start constructing ultra-modern office complex. We want this money to be dedicated to healthcare 100%. Whether it is outpatient, inpatient, maternity services,
from what you've seen
pharmacy.
so far,
if I was to grade, if I was to give,
do they
an
have a
assessment,
capacity to absorb that kind of money?
If I was to give an assessment today, as a fair person, out of 10, I probably give 2 over 10. Because we have been planning for this migration for over a year. There have been interventions, even in court. And yet, when we start, we are not ready. You ask yourself, how? And this is a technology-driven system. Technology is supposed to be, among other things, be very efficient. But then you hear someone has gone, oh, MP, please, I need 4,000 because I need to pay for a CT scan. Oh, I'm stuck at the pharmacy because the shift is not working. These are real problems that we face every day as elected legislators. And unfortunately, we come from rural areas. And so most of our constituents, 100% rely on public services. The second thing that we need to fix is our education system. I don't know why it is becoming a problem for anyone to see that this is something that is a time bomb. So far, I know there's a court injunction on the funding model. And so in theory, the government cannot even release money to the universities. So it's a matter of time again, and you see universities grappling with closure because they cannot sustain the students. We need to work on deliberate efforts to bring manufacturing to Kenya and support manufacturing. We need to say, if it is this affordable housing business we are doing, 100% of the products must be manufactured in Kenya, or at least assembled in Kenya. But now what are we doing? We are letting contractors import tiles from China. And you know, tile making is a traditional art. Mm-hmm. In fact, if you go to China or India, where they make the tiles, you'll be surprised. It's not different from our rural areas. I've had the privilege of seeing some of these factories. It is very rudimentary. Now, we don't see an effort, deliberate effort, to work along the chain. We design, we contract, but we never see where the contractors get these products. Okay. If there was a deliberate effort to make sure that these things are manufactured here, manufacturing of ceramic fittings or tiles is a basic art. In fact, it is 3,000 years old.
But the government appears overwhelmed by so many different things. If you look at those two lists and to see two cartoons agreeing on a theme, or the burden.
I always say it boils down to competence. When you're a president, you need a good team. In fact, when you're a leader, you need a good team, extremely good team. It always boils down to competence.
Okay. Do you agree that the president could be overwhelmed completely this time? He's talking about people, that it is propaganda when people criticize his administration. He said that himself yesterday. But the lists that the cartoons have given us, those are real lists. These are real problems people are talking about. He seems to have focused a bit too much on fixing the politics to his own detriment by alienating one region, which it's arguable whether or not, it's debatable whether or not that serves his purpose as well. Don't you agree that the president at this time should agree that he appears a bit overwhelmed by the things he needs to do but hasn't done yet?
My good friend, the president, although I don't know whether he's my friend now, okay, I love him, I don't know whether he loves me. Mm-hmm. I care for him, I don't know whether he cares about me. Is at a point of, for lack of a better word, let me say, of ignorance of what is happening to this country. I started my statement by telling you, those who eat with fork and spoons, they don't realize that those who are eating with hands are getting banned. And I started by telling you also, what Kenyans are facing, Joe Mutambo faced it on Saturday. Mm-hmm. Okay? Despite the constitutional requirement of all Kenyans getting health services, irrespective of their financial status. That's what the Constitution says. You cannot deny a Kenyan or any person health services because they don't have money to pay. You have to give them the services. So when does that take us? That takes us to this, whether the she or sha, I don't know how you call it, whether it is working or not, that patient deserves the services because it is the responsibility, as per the Constitution, of the government to offer these services. Every Kenyan is entitled to health, is entitled to clean water, is entitled to education, is entitled to security. Those are things which are listed in the Constitution, our own Constitution, right? So it is criminal for any service provider, whether you're a doctor or you run an hospital as a business, because before you got that license to run that hospital, there are some fundamental norms which you are to abide to, like saving lives. You have to treat that person. And it does not mean a person must be hit by a car, then is rushed to hospital, then you stop bleeding. It is not only that. When somebody has some serious sickness or illness, which threatens his life, a doctor, wherever you are, a appropriator of whatever facility you call, whatever, I don't know what name, either government or private, you are bound by the law to take care of that life. Do we do that? No. Do we have any checks and balances? No. This is now where your question comes in. When you asked Maduku whether is ODM to blame on all this. And I'll tell you, life is duality. Okay? You have left hand and the right hand. There is a thief, there is a watchman. There is a thief, there is a police. There is a lawbreaker, there is a person to maintain law enforcement. Likewise, in politics, there is a government and there is an opposition. So when the opposition joins the government, what is left for Kenyans? Who now counterchecks the government? Because now these are two entities which has joined together, and if there is any crime, they will commit it together. Okay? If there is anything good, they will do together.
Do you think they should carry the blame?
What you're saying 100%, because there is nobody now, there's nobody in opposition who can check the government. Because the reason why we amended our constitution and created the space of opposition funded fully by the government, constitutionally funded, it is because we needed another arm to countercheck the government. But when this arm has now jumped to the same government, which is supposed to countercheck, then it becomes nothing. Whenever government want to do anything and they want the numbers will be there. There will be nobody who will oppose. And there's nobody who will tell the government whatever you're doing is wrong. The history of Raila Amolo Odinga has been and is respected for checking the government from his life, and criticizing whenever the government goes wrong. But here, the man goes there and he tells this government, I want this seat, can you help me? Mm-hmm. I want 2 ministers, can you give me? I want another minister, can you give me? And he's given. Will he go and criticize the same government? Will now Raila come and say, Opiyo Odai is doing wrong, he should not sign with Andani? He will say the Andani deal is good because it is his baby. So you see where now we are getting it wrong? And the people who are supposed to be in the opposition, and when you look at them, they don't have the numbers. How many numbers does Wiper have? 20-something members of parliament? How many members does Kioni have in parliament, his party? Almost 0. DAP, what do they have? Almost 2. Can those numbers really control or checkmate the government? The hand says no.
But Amanduku also talked about an issue of competence.
And that's another point I wanted to make.
Many people have actually said that there's a serious issue of competence because these problems, that long list cannot persist for so long without a solution. What do you say to that? My
assessment on the people, and I have a lot of respect to any Kenyan, and maybe we can say any Kenyan has a right to get a job, but sometimes when interviews are being conducted, the reason why we conduct interview is to assess, to measure the ability of this person to perform the task ahead of them. And there's a way government works. You will not just come from, I don't know, nursery school or come from university, I have a degree, I have 10 masters, and then you say I'm the minister. No. You must have that. You know, you cannot just buy a vehicle and give to somebody who has come from driving school tomorrow to drive your children. He will kill them. Because he has a license to drive, then you're giving him a car. There are people out there without the license, actually they can drive better than that person with that paper. There are people out there who can manage this government even without that degree you are talking about. Because it is not about what you learn in school. It's about the wisdom of managing either an institution or managing a country. And this is where we go wrong. Look at, let us audit all the leaders we have, from the ministers. Okay? From all the ministers we have, all the PSs, all the CEOs, all the chairmans of parastatos, those who are given jobs by Ruto, audit them and look at a person and weigh them. What can this one deliver to Kenyans? And that is the mess we are in. The president ignored all the professionals in this world, and he went for his people.
Doesn't that also call into question his own competency to run a government? If at all you pick people who 2 years down the line have not been able to get anything right, the list is getting longer. The transition in the health from NHIF to SHIF has taken over a month now.
I think when the Kenya Kwanza formed the government, well, I don't have benefit of what happened, but then with the benefit of hindsight and looking at the key appointments made, the most important consideration was political affinity. Mm-hmm. And that is why you find that, for example, the principal secretaries, I think 70% come from 2 regions. Mm-hmm. It cannot be an accident that was done at that time. And you know, that time, the impeached deputy president kept reminding us that this was a government of shareholders. And since we were not, we didn't subscribe to those shares, some of our regions were left out. Mm-hmm. But then we still believe that because this is our country, we have a lot of expertise across the country, whether it is from Nyanza region, whether it is from Northeastern, and that we cannot continue lagging behind on account of political expediency. I think it is time that there's a radical surgery. And this radical surgery will only help the president to achieve his objectives. The more he delays it, the more Kenyans get dissatisfied. And unfortunately, Kenyans will always blame him. They will not blame the technocrats. Mm-hmm. I also know that technocrats increasingly are working not independently. They keep looking their back. The president himself has told us that he knows more than some of the people mm-hmm. in government. Now that should be very dangerous, because how then do you work when your boss knows more than you do? So I think I don't have capacity to advise the president, but I think he needs to critically look at the people he has assigned some of the key responsibilities.
When he talks
and forget about regional competition. If you come to my office, my private office, sorry to say, I have people from all over the country, because I'll hire the best architect. I'll hire the best engineer. In fact, I'll hire people better than me, so that they teach me new things. The young people I have working for me are smarter than me, and that is how it should be. I cannot hire people whom I direct, then I will not be growing. And so, this is a bullet that we need to bite, and things will turn around very fast.
He seems to have heard about the criticism.
We have a few
but he's dismissing it as propaganda. If the problems are real.
Well, you see, the pudding, they say the pudding is in the eating. Then how come chief is not working a year later? What is the problem? And this is technology driven. How come we've not cracked our funding model 2 years down the line? they put my constituents, some of them, brothers, 2 brothers, one in band 1, another one in band 4. But they're brothers, same mother, same father. Now, in agriculture, we still need to sort out the issue of post-harvest. Right now, we're harvesting a lot of food, but there's no proper mechanisms to store this food. Let me tell you one thing. In America, they store grain for 10 years. Here in Kenya, we have been promised that, there were dryers coming, I don't know from where. There was this technology coming for this, but we are yet to see that. It is the small things that make a difference. In fact, my people in the village don't know about Adani. They don't know about all these things. They just look at food, clothing, shelter, education, health. Period. And if we sort those basics, and we don't need all these billions of that. In fact, most of my people didn't even know Gachagua until we impeached him. They look at what they need day to day. Okay. Now, we've seen an advert today for the recruitment of teachers. 20,000 interns. Let it for once be fair. The last recruitment, out of 96,000 teachers who were recruited in the last 2 years, my constituency got less than 30. To the records I have, 30 teachers in a constituency, and yet other constituencies get 1,000. Okay. That disparity must also be addressed. And that's where we are saying, let us do things right. Okay. We're not asking for too much.
I want to ask President. He promised us healthcare. How is it that it's a propaganda when I personally was chased away from hospital? How is it that it's a propaganda when this baby is almost going to die? How is it a propaganda? How is it a propaganda that President promised us jobs? And just the other day, we saw people lining up, led by CS Mutua, filling up jobs some forms to go and work as I don't know what, in a foreign country. How is that a propaganda? Those people are trying to get something to do for their lives outside the country where they voted, and the president who promised them jobs. He never promised them overseas jobs. He said that they will get jobs here, and I know they can get jobs. Kenyans or students are supposed to get education. How is it a propaganda that the funding model of our university students has a problem? How come the insurance which people are paying a lot of money is not working? Is that a propaganda? Because that thing is not working. Maybe the one president has is working, because when he goes there, maybe the people will make it work. Or when the minister goes there, they will make it work. Then they come and say, no, Your Excellency, look, it's working, mine is working. But why are we not listening to the people who have those services and are not working? Those who have those cards for the SHA or SHE and it is not working. Why are we not listening to them? Why are we having one person saying in Migori that mine is not working? Another one in Garissa saying mine is not working. You run a bank and you have branches all over. There is no branch which I cannot withdraw my money. So when I'm told a branch in Nakuru is not working and one in Kariobangi is working, then something is wrong. It's not a propaganda. So I will urge my president, don't be too dismissive. Listen to those people who are saying this is not working. Say, thank you very much, I will look into it. But the moment you as a president, you tell me it's a propaganda, and on Saturday I was in Kenyatta and I was chased away and that thing could not work, and the doctors in Kenyatta could not give me my constitutional right of admitting my brother and take care of him, and you tell me that is a propaganda, Mr. President, then I don't know which world I'm living in. I don't know who to believe. Because I want you to take it seriously when a Kenyan complains of something which is wrong and see it is fixed. And look at the issue when people are telling you, Mr. President, we have a problem with the ability of the people who are working for you. And compare your cabinet with Kenyatta's cabinet, Moi's cabinet, Kibaki's cabinet. Compare them. Compare your PSCs. Who are they? I mean, what experience do those people have to lead this country to make some decisions? They are not even respected by their juniors. A PS goes somewhere and the juniors who are supposed to respect the PS, and because they see this, now what do I tell this person? Okay, what do I tell them? Because they see this person, he has no clue. And you, the president, also in front of people, you tell Kenyans that my PSs and ministers, they know nothing. I know more than you people. Of which we expect these are your advisors. They are the one who are supposed to advise you. Now you are the one advising them. Now, which way, Kenya?
Okay. Dr. Ruto regretted that the criticism was hurting the image and progress of the country, as well as his administration. And one wonders, probably, there must be a balance between the positives and negatives. If the criticism on what is not working is there must be also praise for what is working. And the question online, especially on X, and I've seen enough of these tweets, are, can you tell us one thing that is really working in this administration for the last 2 years?
Fred, generally, there's discontent across the country. And even to us, members of parliament, we get a lot of people who are not happy with us as elected leaders. And in an environment of discontent, no one is likely to praise you for anything. Even if there was one correct thing, no one will say you've done it correctly. Now, yesterday I was shocked because I realized that when the deputy president came into office, he went and sought approval from the Public Service Commission and increased his workforce from 100 and something to 600 and something. Now, which means that in post, in the staff establishment, he was able to increase the numbers by almost 500. Then I asked myself, this is the same man who came and said that there was no money left in the coffers. And yet in his own office, he has employed 500 people. To make it worse, I never saw an advertisement seeking to fill vacancies in the office of the deputy president. And I can tell you that story is replicated in many other offices. In fact, across the whole government. And so you ask yourself, then, if opportunities come and they're not shared equitably, we're not asking for all of them, we're asking for one per constituency, the face of Kenya. And then you go to something else. You're reading about all these mega deals. Now, the average Kenyan will read that and immediately associate that with the leaders. And so there's resentment and there's anger. And once you have those qualities in the citizenry, they'll always perceive you with negativity. It's a human factor. And so you don't need to be told what good thing you've done. You need to be reminded the wrong things you're doing so that you can improve. Because don't forget, ultimately, we are accountable to the people. People have no business telling us the good things we do, but they have the business to tell us the wrong things we do, or the things that we don't do right, or even the things that we do by omission. And so, even in my constituency, people will always criticize what they think is going wrong. Don't expect accolades in public service.
So you shouldn't be complaining about the criticism.
No, that is part of oversight. And when you criticize somebody, a leader should take it positively. Sometimes I know it's unfair, but then you take it in your stride and seek to improve if there's anything that you think is worth improving.
All right.
Let me put it in a better language. You work here. You don't get fired by the good things you do. You get fired by one small thing which you do wrong. That is the time you will get fired. And they will never remind you that one day you had a very nice show with Maduko and Mutambo. They will never tell you that. They will tell you, this is wrong, please exit. So, President, Kenyans will not look at you how many times you go to church. No. They will not look at you at how many good things you are doing. Okay? Those good things, they will be overshadowed by one small thing, like this baby who is crying somewhere, and your system is not working. Those good things, you call them good things you have done, they will be overshadowed by the funding model of students, university students. Those small things will be overshadowed by those people who are being kidnapped every day. Those good things, they will be overshadowed by the Adani deal. Those good things, they will be overshadowed by so many other things which are happening in our country, and the Kenyans feel this is not right. So you need to go back and ask yourself, where did the rain start beating? Me, Mr. President, not us. Because Kenyans are looking at you. All of us, we are looking at you. And if you omit one thing by commission or omission, then that thing will come and haunt you. Okay. So when you hear people or Kenyans complain, don't tell them, don't call them propaganda. Don't say it's a propaganda. Take it positively and build yourself out of that foundation that people are complaining about this and I'm going to fix it.
Okay. The headline on page 8 of the Daily Nation reads, Stop Propaganda. President chides government critics. Ruto praises the Kenya Kwanza administration's performance, terming it remarkable. Do you agree? Well, thank you so much, Joe Mutambo, former MP Mwingi Central, and Daniel.
At least there's something good the government did by not allowing security officers into KPSEA examination rooms. Okay. And I want to congratulate all the candidates who are sitting for their grade 6 assessment, and especially the parents, and encourage them that they should ensure 100% transition to the next level, because education is the only thing that we have left that we can give or bequeath our children and future generations.
Thank you so much. Daniel Manduku, MP Nyaribari Masaba, our panelist this morning on State of the Nation. Thank you so much, gentlemen, for your time on TV47 this morning. Well, a lot more coming up after the break. Remember, it is a busy day before the courts. The impeached president, Rigathi Gachagua, returns to the court. Meanwhile, the Supreme Court is also supposed to make judgment on 2 key issues, among them the Finance Act of 2023, as well as a housing levy today. So something to look